Hi everyone, good morning. It's Margaret Manning here. Welcome to 60 and Me. Hope you're having a great morning so far. I woke up really early today and I just love that, that 5 o'clock hour when you can get lots done. And I've got a cup of tea with me this morning. I'm drinking turmeric tea. Now, I've got the tea bag here somewhere to show. Oh, here it is. It's actually very relevant to the conversation that we're having today. But anyway, here's my tea bag. It's turmeric gold. It's a puka tea. And as you know, puka does a whole range of very healthy, happy food teas. And this one is turmeric. And I'm really intrigued by the fact that everywhere you're looking these days, turmeric is appearing. Sometimes it's called curcumin, but turmeric, it's a spice. You find it in Indian curries. But over the last few years, it's been proven to have a really positive impact on your health with regards to immunity, antibacterial. It's got good for digestion, but I love it. And in the evening, I sometimes have a turmeric tea with some ginger and honey. But in the morning, I'm just having a plain ordinary cup of turmeric tea. So I hope that you've got a cup of coffee or tea, smoothie or juice, whatever you love. And let's settle down and talk about something that I think is of interest to most of the people who are watching. And it's really the subject about memory. And one of our bloggers, Joy Stevenson, wrote a fantastic article on how to boost your memory by just making some changes to your lifestyle. Now, there's lots of things that we can do with brain games and, doing sort of puzzles and quizzes, which we've talked about before. But she comes through with some other ideas that are a little bit different. Of course, they fall into four categories. Of course, there's activities that we've talked about. There's diet, partnering with your doctor, and also nutritional analysis. And I think that that's really, really interesting one I hadn't thought about before. But I'm going to go through these and hopefully you'll get some insight and inspiration from her writing. And by the way, if you start forgetting little things like where your keys were or where you put the tea bag, those are things that just happen because we're busy. We just stuff our brain full of information and thoughts and worries and to-dos. So if you're forgetting things now and again, it's not a big deal. But, if you're finding yourself just missing words or forgetting, important things more often than you did before, then maybe it's time to, go into action to try to help your brain get a little bit clearer. So, first things. The first thing that Joy suggests is activities. Now, we've talked about brain games and all those kinds of things. That's wonderful. But then there's also things like meditating and listening to music. Now, I'm a big fan of meditation. I think that it's really helped me over my life to stay very focused and to teach me some techniques for not being overwhelmed by multiple streams of thinking. This is the thing I think that we forget, that our brain really can only process one thing at a time, and it's not positive to try to overthink, and that can cause memory loss because you're not able to focus. So meditation, I think, is super important, whether you call it meditation, mindfulness, whatever you feel comfortable with. Just sitting, focusing on your breath, and trying to let your thoughts flow over you like waves and not catch on to them all the time and try to surf them. So I think it's really important to consider that. The next thing is to basically challenge your brain, like we talked about before. We have puzzles, Sudoku, all these kinds of challenging games online. And in fact, as you probably know, 60andMe has a channel, or it has a page on our 60andMe website called Games. And when you click on that tab, it takes you to like a whole little world of games. Whether you like, word games, puzzles, strategy games, whatever, there's everything there, something for everyone. And that's something I think that you can do to kind of an activity that you can do to get that brain working faster, coordinating and keeping it alert. So trying meditation or music, trying activities like online games, those are all really cool. And also online courses. I don't know, we've talked about before, Coursera and Udemy and some of those other online courses that also give you your brain a workout. So that's kind of important. Now, in terms of other lifestyle changes that you can make, Of course, there are some pretty obvious ones, like to stop smoking. I mean, there's been obviously lots of tests and studies done, and I know how hard it can be to stop these habits that we get into. But if you can try to stop smoking, that will definitely help your brain. So that's something to think about if you're, trying to commit yourself to a healthier lifestyle. Another thing, of course, with regards to lifestyle is to minimize your alcohol consumption. Again, something that really does affect the health of the brain. Now, every time you read a story, drinking is good for you, drinking is bad for you. I think the secret is moderation, like everything in our lives, to try to find a balance. If you drink, if you like a glass of wine, I do sometimes with my dinner or lunch, then just go for it, but just have one glass. Or mix it with water. I sometimes put like a sparkling water with my wine, because sometimes it's not even the wine that I want, it's just kind of a nice, nice tasting drink. So that's another thing that you can do to switch your lifestyle in order to, activate your brain and boost your memory, which I think is what we're, all trying to do. Another thing that Joy recommends or suggests you look at is your sleep habits. Of course, we've talked about this before too, and I'm surprised at the number of women who always say, oh, I don't need a lot of sleep anymore, 4 or 5 hours, I'm good. But truthfully, I mean, yes, of course there are exceptions, and some people do not need much sleep. But on average, a doctor would say that you need between 7 and 8, maybe even 9 hours sleep a night. That's not unusual, and that's actually good for you. That's actually something that you should consider as a lifestyle change. Super important to look at sleep. I think I was reading somewhere, in fact, I think Joy mentions it, that 40% of people in America get less than their recommended number of hours sleep. And, of course, we've talked about sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night, you can't get back to sleep, or you can't sleep, you get to sleep. And of course, there's some things there that you can do. We talked to a nutritionist a few days ago, and I talked to her about things like magnesium, other kinds of supplements that you can use to help you, cut off that kind of fight stimulation in your brain and get it to relax. So sleeping super important. And of course, another thing is exercise. I know, here goes Margaret again on her exercise, and you all know that I'm not a big fan either, so I'm with you on this. I do love activity. I love walking. I love dancing. I love Zumba, which is one of my favorite workout options. But, if you can get some exercise, just your brain basically needs all the things that your body needs to stay healthy. It needs good food, nutrition, it needs oxygen. And so it needs oxygen to thrive. And of course, walking is great. Bike riding or exercising where you get your heart rate up a little bit is really important. So that's another thing to think about when you're trying to boost your memory in your 60s. Super important. Diet. Interesting. Talk about diet. I mean, honestly, the things that you can get that people say are good or bad for the brain. Do some research on this. In the article, Joy puts a whole list together. I would really recommend you take a look. But there are things like that we have access to. And honestly, if you go to a market, they don't have to be super expensive. Things like avocados and broccoli. Blueberries are good for you. Nuts. Olive oil. In fact, coffee has been proven to help with your brain functions as well. So, those are the good things. And dark chocolate, too. I think it has magnesium in it. So it's a really good thing to eat in moderation, of course. Don't eat huge quantities of any food. I think that's the secret. So those are good things. In terms of don'ts, I mean, things like saturated fats, simple carbohydrates, and again, this theme just keeps coming up over and over, and that's sugar. We all know this. Sugar is just not good for you, and it's hidden in so many foods. So that's important to think about too. Even artificial sweeteners. And, it's like setting your level of expectation for sweet. What is sweet anymore? Do you really need things to be super sweet? So that's another lifestyle change in your diet that you can make. Now, of course, Joy talks also about some very obvious things too, like simple things like going to talk to your doctor about this. Be honest with your doctor about how you're feeling and things are going on. don't be nervous when he or she wants to take your blood pressure. That's a super important one. High blood pressure is not a good thing for the brain. So get that under control with diet or with medications, but also things like diabetes. So, be your own biggest advocate. Go to the doctor prepared with a couple of questions. I know it's really hard because they're so busy these days, and it's really difficult to, oh, by the way, I've got this question about nutrition. But ask a few questions and make sure you've got your symptoms out on the table and that the doctor is able to help you. So talk to your doctor, make them your partner. And the last thing that Joy talks about is one that I hadn't ever thought about before with regards to brain health, and that is nutritional testing. Now, there are tests you can have at the doctors to test your level of vitamins, like, for example, vitamin D. A lot of women and men are vitamin D deficient. So they can test this with your blood test. They can see how much your vitamin D is in balance. And, it'd be interesting to do it as part of your next blood test regime and see how you're doing, because that's one that tends to be low and helps to boost memory. Another thing is vitamin B12. This is another drug or a vitamin that you need to talk to your doctor about. You can get it over the counter as part of a B complex. And you can actually buy it, B12 by itself, although it's a little hard to get. I've tried to purchase it, and it's one of those vitamins that they like you to talk to your doctor about because it's apparently very, very good for the brain, for brain health. But if you you're low on vitamin B12, it's good to get a prescription for a proper B12 vitamin. And the doctor can help you with this. Also, get your doctor to test your glucose levels. Of course, for diabetes and other diseases, make sure that that's in balance. And, just getting your nutrient, vitamins and minerals checked to make sure you're getting enough is super important. Now, if you're eating good food and you're keeping a balanced diet, this is probably advice that you already know. But if you are feeling a little bit under the weather, you're feeling like your memory is fading a little bit, then perhaps it's time to make some of those lifestyle changes to your diet, to lifestyle activities with your doctor, or with your testing of nutrition elements in your body. Hope that's been helpful. I found this article really, really helpful to me and insightful. And I would suggest, if you've got a few minutes, to go and have a read of it, because then you can get all the in between the lines things that I didn't mention, all the different suggestions and recommendations. So I hope you're all feeling healthy today. There's nothing more important, is there? I mean, honestly, that is the one thing in our lives that we need to look out for, need to be careful about. We can have everything else in the world, but if we're not healthy and our brain isn't sort of working at the place we want it to be, then there's work to be done. So have a great day. Have some healthy food today. Check yourself. Make sure do some brain games. Go to our game page on 60andMe and have fun playing with those. And I'd like a question for you. So I'd like to get some sharing and some dialogue going, which always happens, and I love it. And that is, what are you doing to boost your memory? What kinds of things are you doing to boost your memory and to maintain brain health? I'd really like to have your thoughts and your sharing contribution so that we can learn from each other. What are you doing to boost your brain health? Okay, everyone. Well, keep happy and healthy today. Have a wonderful day. And again, thank you for being here. And I look forward to seeing you all again really soon. Bye-bye for now.